All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our WiscWeb October Lunch and Learn. My name is Jenna Klinner, and I'm the service coordinator for the WiscWeb team. We've also got Matt Goins on, and a couple members of the WiscWeb team, and probably a couple from the Stratcom team as well today. And let's see what we've got on the agenda for today. First, we're going to do a couple updates and reminders that are kind of more specific to the WiscWeb service in general. And then we're going to get into some things that are more specific to the UW Theme 2.0 stuff. And then we have very short demos today. One is related to an advanced custom field change that is going to change the interface of the UW Theme Classic theme a little bit. That's going to be rolling out potentially later this month. And then we also did want to give you a little demo of like the documentation that we already have for migration in the KB in preparation for that path opening soon, but not yet available. And we can go to the next slide there. Tons of WiscWeb service updates today. As a reminder, all new websites that are being requested in WiscWeb are being built with UW Theme 2.0. So if you have a need to build a new site, now is a great time to start familiarizing yourself with that theme. It is a different editing environment than what you're used to. I also wanted to note this was brought up recently, and I thought it was a really good piece to kind of be aware of for anyone who's an existing WiscWeb user who maybe has multiple sites in UW Theme Classic, is that your new site, when you request a new UW Theme 2.0 site, will not show in the same My Sites list when you log in. The reason for that is they're on totally different infrastructure. So your old My Sites list will still show the sites that use UW Theme Classic, but your new site will be in a different place. So you won't see that full list there until you've migrated everything over. As a reminder, Kaltura embeds are still not working. Our team has roadmapped some time to kind of look at this further. It sounds like there might be something we might be able to tweak on our end, but with the migration, we just haven't had time just yet. I would say for now, if you have any broken embeds, please do just link out directly to the Kaltura file or URLs for the time being. Another reminder is that there are a lot of service changes related to this UW Theme 2.0 launch. So with this launch, as I said, we have new infrastructure, and that has meant some changes to kind of the experience for you. And I want to just add a little link to the chat for you that has a link to a KB doc that you can kind of take a look at. We've gone through these before, so I'm not going to kind of go into each one in detail, but just making sure everyone's aware of those. And you can look at the KB doc if you'd like to dig in further. I also wanted to note a reminder about our KB documentation in general. With the changeover to UW Theme 2.0, we've kind of separated old UW Theme Classic documentation a little bit to kind of hopefully limit confusion on which is which, but also to set us up for kind of decommissioning that documentation in the future once that's all completed. So if you're looking for KB documentation regarding your current UW Theme Classic site, so the old theme, that's going to be located here. I'll add the link in the chat. If you're just doing a regular KB search for certain terms, you should still get to it. But if you did have our main WiscWeb KB hub link that may be saved in your browser, just noting that that documentation will live separately. And the main WiscWeb space is really dedicated to current state now with UW Theme 2.0. Most UW Theme 2.0 documentation itself actually lives on the UW Theme .brand site, which I can also add to the chat, which is an additional difference in kind of how documentation is being handled. That there. So a lot of the WiscWeb core hub in the KB is really just dedicated to like service related stuff and not the theme itself. I guess I'll pause there because I know that's a bit confusing. If anyone has questions about any of that or anything I missed, Matt. All right, feel free to add to the chat too if you have any questions. Another reminder, we did email out about this, but UW Theme 2.0 had a new version release to 2.1.0. That was released yesterday on October 8th. Most of you are not impacted yet because you're not on the new theme yet, but just noting that it did come with a few changes. I do have a link to our article about this. That I'll also put in the chat for you in case you are already in or playing around in UW Theme 2.0 and want to see what has changed. And then the final update here is that there's going to be ACF stands for Advanced Custom Fields. The old UW Theme Classic was built on Advanced Custom Fields, which is really just kind of the technology that's providing the page builder. So all of your page elements and content layouts, that's provided by something called ACF. That is getting an update hopefully later this month, pretty late, probably like around the October 28th time period. But it will sort of change the look and feel of the interface. We're going to do a little demo of that later, but just noting coming later this month, you may see changes to how your UW Theme Classic content looks in the editing view. All right. In terms of UW Theme 2.0 migration updates, I just wanted to note that we're regularly updating our KB articles about this. I'm going to show you where these are located a little bit later in this session. But as we're testing things and refining things and learning more about migration, we are actively updating those docs in case you're kind of just following along and curious about what that will mean for you. We also have a WP CLI process in place that should improve the experience from when we demoed migration previously. So what this really just means for you is you should have less work involved in just kind of noting what pages are, or in just migrating content in general. There will still be, oh yeah, we can answer the WP CLI question in 1 second. There will still be work that you have to do for migration. We still recommend going into all your pages and just confirming things are coming over as expected, but it should improve the process a little bit. I am not the best person to describe what WP CLI means, so I am going to just ask that a developer maybe pop in if you're comfortable to kind of describe that process a bit more.
I can take that.
Thank you.
So WP is WordPress, CLI is command line interface, which is like a terminal or I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. Basically a way that you can run commands on a computer or machine to do things that you want to do or to automate. So we'll be setting up some migration processes to run commands on your sites as we migrate them in to do a lot of the migration up front so that y'all can just kind of go through and review already migrated content, basically.
Yeah, shout out to both Scott, who just spoke, Scott Berg, and Nate Finch, if you're on this call, doing the work, making that migration process better for you all. We're really appreciative of all the effort. It's looking really good. So also, we are going to be recording some migration related trading videos soon. That will be timed with kind of like the release of that path. Yeah, Matt says like soon. We've got a lot of that process refined, as I said, but now we held off on recording anything until things were, in a place where they wouldn't be changing it quite as much. So we'll release that. Also, just noting, like, we do hope to open some in-person office hours for folks migrating specifically. So we'll be advertising those a little bit later. Still targeting a fall release for that migration path. So we're really hoping to get that out and open soon. We'll absolutely be letting you know when that option is available. And then as a reminder, some tools and plugins will be ready for when we open that option. So that initial release might not be the best time for some people if they rely on certain technology. And we can go to the next slide here. So in terms of migration, what can you be doing now? I think you could be watching the pre-recorded training video playlist that Matt has created for you all on just how to use UW Theme 2.0 in general. I have a link here that I'll add to the chat. So this is a nice little playlist in Kaltura that walks through how to use UW Theme 2.0. It's a great way to familiarize yourself. A lot of you don't have a UW Theme 2.0 website yet. So what you can do is follow along in the WordPress playground as you're doing the training, which I'll also add to the chat. That's a great place to just kind of familiarize yourself with that theme and understand what is changing and how the interface works. And of course, do the training. Third bullet there, reviewing the element conversion table to understand what is not yet ready. So this is something that we link to both on our website and in the knowledge-based documentation on migration. But essentially, we have a little table that I'll add to the chat as well that has all of the tooling that is included in the theme or was in the UW Theme Classic and plugins that we had in WiscWeb, and kind of gives a status of where they're at and any migration notes that you might need to be aware of. So this is where we want you to look if you're curious about what is happening. And it does show that several items are not yet completed. We'll be updating that as we build out those tools, but just making sure you're all aware. You could block time now for on your kind of like team roadmap or calendar so that you are kind of giving your team some time to do that migration, particularly maybe if you have busy times of the year and you want to like hold other times. And just reviewing all of your existing content just to kind of understand what's there and maybe get rid of stuff if it's no longer needed. All right. Pausing in case there are questions.
Yeah, the last bullet there, the review all content is just in relate. I threw that one in because it's in relation to conversations I've been having with a lot of people lately about what can you be doing to get ready for the migration. And this is the
Yeah.
one thing, that everyone can be doing. And the conversations that we've had, a lot of it is encouraging folks to consolidate. Look at what isn't needed anymore. There's a lot of content in your sites that are like a basement or an attic that it just collects stuff. And your media library, you can go into that and start taking a peek at some things that you know are no longer needed in there, and that could limit or that could help you out in the long run, in making some changes once you get into Theme 2.0. The other thing that I have been encouraging people to do, and I do this at the start of every semester, is look at your users list. I desperately want people to remove any users that are no longer needed within your group space, because if they're still there, that means that they still have edit access, even if they don't, even if they shouldn't. So review everything: pages, posts, media, documents, users, etc. Just look at everything and really decide on what's not necessary, what can be consolidated, and what is necessary.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I did want to reiterate something you noted above, Matt, which is you don't have to migrate right away. So when we open that path, that doesn't mean that you have to start right then. Um, you have until the end of a calendar year 2026 to relaunch your new site. And then Chris Hollenbach asks, for migration, will the link structure and drop-down menus auto-migrate? Yes. So your content, things like your media library, your menus, and your what we called in the old theme, the customizer settings, so like the site-wide settings, those should auto-migrate. We are asking people to just double-check things because I think that's a good practice. But generally, a lot of that will just auto-migrate.
Yeah.
Good question.
And again,
Any
for
other?
those of you who have been around long enough, this process, I guess it would be everybody, but for those of you who don't remember what your process was when we first did this migration way, way, way back in the day, we're going to move you over to a quote unquote sandbox site. You're going to review your migrated content. You're going to sign off on your migrated content or fix it based on what maybe needs to be done. And then you're going to launch that new site to to replace what was your UW theme classic site. Same URL, but it's not a there's no switch that's going to be flipped that is an immediate one. It is a time process, which is why Jenna recommends block that time, because you're going to have to request the migration, review the content, and then launch the site. It's not just you request it and it happens. That process is on you to make those decisions and finalize by launching.
Yeah. Megan asked about site users, which is a really good question. There's a few WiscWeb and StratCom folks listed as admins on their site. Should I leave those folks on there? I don't think there's necessarily any harm. We're more so talking about, like, is this person like not at the university anymore? Maybe they shouldn't come over, or not on your team and shouldn't have access. But generally, from the WiscWeb side of things, we're all super admins in WordPress, and therefore we can get to any site needed. So I think you can confidently remove us if you'd like to. Meredith asks, events conversion chart question. Am I understanding correctly that while the Udemy events plugin is not yet ready, the simple today.wis.edu block is ready to go now? Yes, great question. And I will say the Udemy events plugin is something that is currently in progress. So that might be coming soon after we open the migration path. Great
I think that's
question.
why I
Any
wanted to
other
encourage
questions?
that time frame aspect of it, is
Yeah.
because of the fact that UW Events plugin is currently on our radar for getting worked on and getting finalized sooner rather than later. I shouldn't say many, we've had several conversations with folks about publications. The UW Publications plugin is not going to be ready at launch, nor do we have a specific time frame for when we are going to have something to replace that. So if publications are a very important part of your decision to migrate, you're better off waiting until we have something in place to hopefully replace that plugin
Yeah.
itself.
Actually, I have a slide all about that too that we can.
Oh, goody.
Any other questions? Feel free to add them to the chat. We'll kind of review. But I did want to kind of revisit this release schedule stuff. So, like, as you should know, Udemy Theme 2.0 is already available. So if you're just building a build from scratch site, you can do that now, but a lot of you are going to be migrating, and that's coming soon. So as a reminder, what that is that ability to kind of request that we migrate your site from the old infrastructure to the new and turn on that migration tooling for you. You will have to request a new site when you're ready. So that will be kind of our way of knowing, like, hey, you're ready to go. And that's based on your timeline. We're not going to force you to go at a specific time, but we do have, as I mentioned earlier, deadline of end of calendar year 2026. Pausing here, there's a question in the chat. The element conversion site talks about embed. What about short codes, or is that the same thing? Somewhat. So the embed, let's take a look at the element conversion thing. Embed content was a page element in UW Theme Classic, where folks might have embedded things like YouTube or Vimeo or Spotify. In UW Theme 2.0, that is going to be our UW embed block that migrates to. Those should auto migrate. For short codes, it kind of depends. Some of our main short codes that you might have seen, like the back to top short code and the search short code, should auto migrate. But there are going to be some short codes for things that are not going to be accommodated in the future state. So a good example of that is the reusable content plugin. That isn't something that's going to migrate over, that had a short code element to it. Hopefully that answers your question, Sarah, but let us know if you have additional follow-ups.
Yeah, and a couple of things that we're still wrapping our brains around is how the plugins WP data tables and gravity forms work when moving into UW theme 2.0. They work. That I should restate that. They work. It's more of adding them, because in the past you added them via a short code on a page. Well, in UW theme 2.0, there are blocks for each. And so we need to make sure that we are understanding of the blocks and also making sure that they are secure, because the blocks may add more capability than we want people to um, have for just UX and accessibility reasons.
Yeah, but just to reiterate, if you have short codes for like forms or WP data
Yep,
tables on your pages, those will
those will.
migrate over and should work. It's just we're not positive how that will look yet.
Yeah.
So still refining that, but generally it should come over. Um, Andrea's added some nice links in the chat there for you, including a link to the embed blocks plugin and a note about things like Vimeo and YouTube are using the core WordPress embed block. There's another question here. Will you post another Genesis test site for 2.0? It's super helpful. Oh, like the Jenna test with
You're,
Web.
yeah,
We
you're
didn't have
demo,
plans for it, but we
but
could.
you're not
Yeah,
going to
good
migrate it?
question. We could. We actually got a great question from Logan in the WordPress users chat a couple days ago, regarding just kind of sharing sites as they're built so that you all get some ideas on how to create your content. And that is something that I kind of noted as maybe a need that we need to look into. Generally, if you're just curious about kind of like what do things look like, the uwtheme.brand site is a great example. It's lovely. The wonderful Ketter Joyner did great work on that site in both design, layout, and content. So it's a great example of what you can do with the theme, but I do understand that it's also helpful to see like maybe real campus or academic content. So we'll take a look at that. Rich asks, how many media images is too many for migrating? I have a past events page with images from a while back that aren't completely necessary.
Yeah,
I don't know that we have a limit.
my comment on that is more of so in some of the office hours that I've had where people have asked me basically, should I start from scratch or should I wait to migrate? And I always look at, well, how much content do they have? Well, they have 25 pages or 50 pages, um, or 20 posts or 50 posts or 100 posts, etc. Um, some of those conversations lead into me saying, well, if you're going to start from scratch, you're going to have to manually bring over all of that media as well, because of the fact that we're not pulling that content in. And the comment that I get very often in those conversations is, I don't even know where half of these things are being used at. And it's that kind of thing that I encourage people to take a look at, is so you don't confuse yourself when you look at your media library with what is and what isn't being used. Kind of do that type of purge. But if you know stuff is being used, that's fine. It'll come over in the migration just fine. Because we're just basically going to take snapshot of site, run CLI processes, migrated site, here you go. That's kind of what we're going to do. But my encouragement is more of looking at the things that you know for certain are not used and dump them. But I'm also big Purge fan. So it's my big word that I always use when we're having meetings about like what can we do, because I'd love to purge things a
Yeah, I
ton.
will say too, we do try to like get rid of technical debt a lot as a service, just because that can bite you in the bum later. So we do like to remove things if they're not needed, and that's generally what we recommend. Yeah, I think that's something, Rich, that we can kind of chat about after we do our demos today. A lot of people ask like, how do I clean up my media? And it's not the best in WordPress, I will say, but we can chat more at the end of this session. Okay. So we chatted about what's coming soon. Migration paths should be opening soon, later this fall. And then after that is when we would focus more on migration from non-WiscWeb into WiscWeb. So we have had a number of folks who have sites outside of WiscWeb right now who are interested in having their content migrated in. Our first priority is a migration path for existing WiscWeb users, and then we can kind of take a look at what we might do for those other instances. And then a note, like if you are using Udemy theme 2.0 already, keep an eye on the changelog for updates to the theme. I will see if I can grab that link for you. I did include a link earlier from our own WiscWeb article regarding the change that recently happened, but here's a link to the Udemy theme 2.0 changelog as well. There you go. Question from Linda, will there be any training for how to set up patterns, for example, patterns for reusable content? Yes, I think that first our priorities are like the general training that users will need, and then you're going to start to see us kind of dig into other topics as well. And those are things that you might be able to get some one-on-one help from those in-person office hours that I mentioned earlier. All right, I think we can go to the next slide here. Okay, circling back to what we were talking about earlier, here's a list of some of the common things that you might be using that are not yet ready. Udemy events, we talked about that, in progress. Udemy publications, as Matt mentioned, we're currently doing user research here. Thank you to all those who've participated in that research, very helpful. We're just trying to understand like what's actually needed. Our existing plugins a bit bloated, but might not actually be kind of targeting the needs that we have on campus. So we're just looking at that first before we're going to build anything. UW documents and document listing is not something that we've even started yet. So if you do have document listing, you might want to wait if you rely on that. Gravity Forms integration with Eloqua Salesforce, that's also something that's not built yet. UW Social Share, if you're using the like social media icons on any of maybe like your posts so that people can share to social, that is not ready yet. If any of those are required for your site, consider waiting before you request a migration. And again, look at that element conversion table because we'll update that as things are ready. All right, so earlier I talked about something called advanced custom fields and how there's a change coming to UW Theme Classic. I think I mentioned that is scheduled tentatively for later this month, but we're going to have the launch and learn at the beginning of the month, so I just wanted to make sure you knew. I'm going to kind of go through these bullets on what is changing, but then I have a slide that actually shows the new view for you. So if you do any editing in Udemy Theme Classic and you're used to that little gear icon in the top right corner of your content layout for editing things like your headline or the spacing between content layouts, that icon is going to move all the way to the left in the future related to this update. Colors might look a little bit different. The minus icon, which allows you to remove like a content layout or a page element from the page, is now going to be a little trash icon. There's now expand all and collapse all options throughout the page builder. The page in this future view is a link that is going to show and it's not going to do anything. So those are kind of the overview, nothing major. But if you go to the next slide, Matt, I can kind of show you what this new view will look like. All right, so this is a screenshot of the new Udemy Theme Classic view that will be rolling out later this month. As you can see in the top left corner, I have a little red outline around the gear icon. That's where it will show in the future. So it's going from all the way from the right to all the way to the left. I also highlighted on the right-hand side a little trash icon. That's going to be how you delete a content layout or a page element from your page in the future instead of the minus sign. You'll also see expand all and collapse all buttons or links throughout. And you might see some different colors. Those are the big ones. I'll pause there in case there's any questions. hopefully that's pretty straightforward. All right. And then the other thing we just wanted to show off was just how to find that migration documentation in the knowledge base that I talked about earlier. So Matt, if you just go to the knowledge base.
Bum, 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 bum. Let me go back because I've closed things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So now you're fine. Sharing different screens. Screen 3, share. There we go, baby.
All righty. So this is our WiscWeb knowledge base space. And up at the top, we now have this little like nav item for Udemy Theme 2.0 migration. This provides you an overview of kind of the process. This is not available yet, but I wanted to make sure, or we wanted to make sure that you all could review this information so you knew it was coming. So this is where you can get a link to that element conversion table that we talked about. It's also where you can review the migration process in a doc form. Training is really just the Udemy Theme 2.0 training for now, but once we have the migration training recorded, it'll also be linked there. Service changes we talked about earlier, things that are changing that you need to be aware of. Frequently asked questions are just things that you're all asking that are good questions that we want to make sure we're documenting somewhere. And then we do have a link for help support as well. Matt, if you click into the migration process one, I do want to kind of show that off specifically. So note at the top, just noting that's not yet available. There's a couple things that we're asking folks to do in preparation that you can review there, like making sure that you've actually taken the training. And then we get into our actual migration steps, showing this just so that you know kind of like what the expectations are going to be. And like I said, this documentation is regularly being updated as we continue to refine our tooling, our migration tooling. So re-adding this link to the chat for anyone who wishes to explore further, but mostly just showing that we do have some information there, including like the migration status checker stuff, which we did demo a few months ago, but there will be a way to kind of denote a page as being migrated and then actually look at the pages that you still need to move and even download a CSV file so that you could maybe work through that process with team members or kind of check off your progress. Any questions on that? All right, if you think of any, feel free to add it to the chat. That's all we had today, but I know that Rich asked a question about how to clean up your media library. And this one is a tough one to answer because, as I mentioned earlier, WordPress doesn't have great tooling for this. So I don't know, Matt, if you want to like log into maybe like a UW theme classic site. Yeah, and then click on media. So the question that Rich asked was about like unattached files. And I think that shows if you go to like, yeah.
Scott actually
Yeah,
mentioned.
I did respond in the chat.
Yep.
Unattached. So
Oh,
the attached means if you click add media while in a post,
Yeah.
it'll attach it to that post, but you can
yeah.
still use that file anywhere. And if you upload
Yeah.
directly to the media file, it'll be unattached. So that is not an indicator of it being used on a page or not.
No,
Sorry,
I,
didn't want to alarm
yeah,
you. I was about to say that. Yeah, it's not a great indicator of like in use, particularly like if you use something in like a fact staff page, it's going to show as unattached even though it is in use.
yeah. And there, honestly, there is no easy way to do it other than just knowledge, your own knowledge of your site.
Yeah.
That puts a lot on. I wanted to say one more thing too about the reviewing all content, but I'll get to that in a second. But that's kind of the thing of media libraries is WordPress doesn't. It's WordPress doesn't care about technical debt. It's just there for you to add whatever it is that you would like. We care about the technical debt aspect of it. We also care about the fact that like you open up your like 409 is modest compared to some of the sites that we have within our service. We have 2000 plus media items in some sites, and there's just nothing else to say other than awareness of content that's being used or not used, and can you get rid of it?
I guess like
That's
one option too is like if you have uh time, which I know is not something that most of you have, but if you have time and maybe it's a smaller site, you could consider building from scratch, and that way everything you're adding is what's needed. It's also a great way to learn the new theme, so that's a consideration as well.
yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as well, one of the things that you all are, there's 58 people. We capped off at like 64 or something like that. You all are the engaged audience. And so this message really isn't meant for all of you, although I will encourage you all to remember it as well. But this is more for our broader audience that maybe watches this after the fact, hopefully watches this after the fact. Um, One of the things that we really want people to do is make sure you go in and set your primary contact as well. That is something that we are going to lean on as we move forward through the migration process, as well as through some other service updates that we're going to be making, and just make sure it's set to someone who can be contacted in relation to decisions that can be
Yes.
made about this site. It's important to us and therefore important to you. So,
Yes, great point. If you're not sure how to set it, just email us. We can set it for
yeah,
you. But like, generally, we do have documentation on this. This is covered in the migration documentation as well as in terms of like prep steps and part of the migrating user stuff. Uh, we will absolutely need to know who is kind of responsible for this process for that site. And we are going to be doing tons of communication over the next year, kind of making sure people are aware and are working on it or have, scheduled time to work on it, asking if a site is still needed, things like that. Also, great point. If you know a site's not needed anymore, that is something that is very helpful for us to know. You can just email us and we'll archive those projects. What do you say, Matt?
I said purge.
Purge.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Say we have some time, so if there's troubleshooting questions, we can take a look.
I will stop the recording then, since we are at a point where it has gotten quiet.
Yeah.
Go Cubs.